When do I go?
And they say grade rest. So we go.
All right, rest.
Yes.
And this is what? This is Memorial Day. This is the day when we Americans honor those men and women who serve in the armed forces, the day that we remember those veterans, and the day that we pay special tribute to those who gave their lives that this nation might be free. Several weeks ago, I asked every pastor in the conference to mail to me names of their church members who were veterans. They sent me 378 names, and tonight you will see those names on the screen. Charles, I have a favorite song, and I think you know what it is. I've waited a long time to hear you sing this song, and that favorite song of mine, an old patriotic favorite, God Bless the USA.
I'll sing it only if you join me.
That you will not see.
If tomorrow all the things were gone I've worked for all my life, and I hate to start again with my children and my wife, I thank my heavenly stars to be living here today, because the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. Hey, and I'm proud to be an American. At least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains to Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA, there is pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American. At least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. To be an American, at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Charles, I wish you could teach me to sing like that. Please be seated if you would. I want to acknowledge the two young Marines behind me who raised the flag. PFC Jeremy Cornell on your right, and Private Robert Murata on your left. Gentlemen, I thank you for being here tonight and participating in this program. Also in back of me are 3 Florida Conference veterans who have served in 3 different parts of the world. During the Vietnam War, we lost 58,193 young Americans. Their names are inscribed in 140 black granite panels in our nation's capital. I was there 2 weeks ago. I've been there probably 20 times. In aircraft losses, in addition to the helicopters that were shot down, we lost, as Americans, 3,339 fixed-wing aircraft. One of our pilots was Charles L. Ferguson, a young Air Force captain. Chuck, as I have come to know him, was the first pilot to be shot down in North Vietnam, to evade capture, and to find his way back to a pickup site. It was on January the 16th, 1965, that his squadron of 8 F-100s was ordered to blow up a bridge on the Laotian North Vietnamese border. That day, upon completing their mission, they made 2 sweeps over a downed aircraft. On that initial pass, Chuck's plane was hit by ground fire and he began to lose altitude. He was only 500 feet from the ground when he pressed the ejection button. The canopy was blown away and Chuck was jettisoned into the air. At the moment his chute opened, he was so low that he was slamming into 30 feet tall elephant grass. He landed upright in deep jungle undergrowth. There was enemy fire all around him. He heard voices. Men were hacking their way through the brush coming toward him. Chuck drew out his service revolver but realized that he was hopelessly outnumbered. The first man to break through that tall undergrowth was a small man wearing a dirty white trousers and carried a machete, and he wore no shoes. This tribesman dropped to his knees, folded his hands in a prayer position in front of Chuck. Other men came and did the same thing, and Chuck responded in like manner. As it was, these were villagers on the other side of the North Vietnamese border, many of whom were supported by the United States government. Chuck was led for miles through dense undergrowth, along narrow trails cut along mountainsides. He was led from village to village to village. He was hot, tired, thirsty, and extremely apprehensive. Then, in one of those villages, he was led to a hut, and there he saw a man sitting on the ground operating a RCA transceiver. Chuck did not understand the language, but he was sure praying that he was a topic of conversation. The next day, by the way, he slept in the hut that night. The next day, he heard search planes. They came, they passed. One circled the village twice. Chuck had 1 red flare left. He had used up all of his red flares. He shot the red flare into the sky. And then he tied a cloth onto the top of a long pole and he waved this at the airplane. The pilot saw him, dipped his wings. Chuck knew that he had been spotted. Another plane dropped a supply of rice as a gift to the villagers for saving one of their own. In a short time, a helicopter came into view, and as it dropped down into the village, Chuck told me that all the men and the women and the children cheered for him. I want to add a little footnote to this story that's very interesting. When Chuck jettisoned that canopy on his plane, his flight jacket was blown out with it. 2 months later, he received a package. The tribesman who first found him on the ground in that elephant grass went to the crash site and retrieved his jacket and wanted Chuck to have it back. I'm holding a letter in my hand, and I want to read that letter to you. It is from the Office of the Deputy Commander, 2nd Air Division, Thailand. Dear Captain Ferguson, a chopper pilot received your jacket from the tribesmen who rescued you. They specifically wanted it returned to you as a memento of your experience with them. They have been amply rewarded for their efforts on your behalf, and they pass on best wishes and thanks for your contribution to their cause. Chuck, I have with me tonight your flight jacket, and I want you to show the folk what it looks like. And I'm sure, there it is. Thank you, Chuck. World War II involved every nation on earth. One of the battles that would decide the fate of the world began on June 6, 1944. On a 50-mile front, 200,000 British, Canadian, and American soldiers stormed the coastline of France. There were 5,000 ships, 4,000 landing crafts involved in this operation. And this became known as the Normandy invasion. George E. Jansen was a part of that invasion. After the initial landing, his company landed on Omaha Beach. He was in the Army Air Corps, but on Omaha Beach, he was assigned to Patton's Third Army. The first wave of soldiers to hit that beach heard these words from Dwight D. Eisenhower: "You are about to embark on a great crusade. The eyes of the world are upon you." And these men also knew that many of them would not be coming home. In that single battle, 10,300 casualties occurred in that battle. George holds 4 overseas service decorations. George has 5 battle stars. Each battle star represents a major battle in which he was engaged. First was the Normandy invasion, then a battle in northern France, the Rhineland, a major battle in Central Europe, and he was also involved in the Battle of the Bulge in the Ardennes. In my interview with him, he spoke with deep emotion of seeing bodies of young American soldiers piled under trees, and because there were no body bags, they were put in mattress covers, loaded on trucks, carried to the rear, and hastily buried in shallow graves. He also spoke of Buchenwald, the infamous death camp, the gas chambers, the crematoriums, and the 20,000 living skeletons who were liberated. George, on a personal note, I was in Russia a few years ago. I met an old grandmother, and on her arm there was a large tattoo, a number. And when she learned that I was an American, she wrapped her arms around me and she said, "Spasiba, spasiba, spasiba," and tears poured down her cheeks. And I talked to my translator and I said, "What is she saying?" And he told me, he said, she was in a Nazi concentration camp, and it was the Americans who came and saved her, and she is thanking you for that. We thank you for your service. We thank you. Iwo Jima, and we've all heard of Iwo Jima, is located 3,000 miles west of Hawaii. It is a 8-square-mile island of gray volcanic ash. During World War II, that island was defended by 19,000 battle-hardened Japanese soldiers. Donald W. Hann was a 20-year-old Marine from Michigan. He was trained as a flamethrower, a paratrooper, and he was assigned to a demolition squad. Don told me, he said, when I landed on that island, I carried a canvas bag filled with explosives. You see, for 4 years, the Japanese had built massive underground tunnels under that entire island. And the order given to the demolition squad was to blow up those tunnels. When I talked with Don about his experience at Iwo Jima, he said, as our ship neared that island, we were told that the campaign would last for 3 days, 10 at the most. Well, 36 days later, that island was finally taken, inch by inch. That victory came at a tremendous cost. And every time I look at this number, I can hardly say it without having an emotion that, here's the number. That victory came at a tremendous cost. 6,821 Marines died on that little piece of sand 5 miles long and 2.5 miles wide. Don would earn 2 Purple Hearts on that island. He was wounded on the 4th day of battle, 2 days later sent back to fight. On the 19th day after landing, his company fought their way up to the mouth of a large cave. Don packed a charge about the size of a football. He pressed in the detonation cap, lit the fuse, threw it in the opening of the cave, and the cave was sealed off. He had no way of knowing it, but his company, they were on top of an enemy ammunition dump. And the Japanese set off their supply of ammunition. And Don said to me, it was like being on the top of a volcano. And then he added, our company was wiped out that day. During that Iwo Jima operation, of the 252 men in his company, all but 19 were killed or wounded. In human life, this was the costliest piece of real estate in the history of the Marine Corps. Don, thank you for your service. How many veterans are here tonight? Would you please stand? I want all veterans to please stand right now. Every one of you, remain standing, remain standing. Every one of you have a story. And tonight we're going to scroll the names on this screen of those who served with you. And we're going to hear Charles sing, God Bless America, and you remain standing.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountain to the prairie, to the ocean white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Please stand and join me on this final refrain of God Bless America. You ready? God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her, stand beside and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains, prairie to the prairie, the ocean to the ocean, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home.
Thank you so much. You may go over there, please. Thank you so much. Thank you, Chuck. I appreciate that. God bless you. Be seated. And may God bless you, and may God bless America.